بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Ādāb al-Salāt by the late Imam Khomeini. Today, inshallah, we will study chapter 5 and chapter 6 of the general manners of recitation of the Qur'an. And we mean by general that it is not limited to recitation of Qur'an inside Salat. Anytime we recite the Qur'an, these manners should be observed. One manner is presence of heart. And this is what we have discussed before, so we don't need to discuss it again. He starts with tafakkur, contemplation, pondering upon the Qur'an. He says, what we mean here is that whenever we recite the Qur'an, we should try to find out what is the purpose. Because Qur'an is a book of guidance. It's a book of light. It is Kitab Munir. Qur'an shows us the ways towards peace. Yahdi bihillah man ittaba'a ridwanahu subul as-salam. With the Qur'an we have to achieve peace, internal peace, external peace. We should move from darkness to the light. With the Qur'an we should reach qalb salim, a pure heart. And the maximum of it, as we have in hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, is al-qalb salim alladhi yalqa rabbahu wa laysa fihi ahadun siwah. Qalb Salim is not just a heart which doesn't have jealousy and greediness and selfishness. It's more than that. Qalb Salim can reach the point that there is nothing and no one other than Allah in that heart. Yes, there are many things under Allah, but nothing other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing next to Allah or na'udhu billah above Allah, everything under Allah. So, a qari, a reciter of the Qur'an, whether it's in Salat or outside Salat, should try to understand from every passage of the Qur'an how I can benefit from it for journey towards light, for gaining light, for ways of peace, for qalb salim, etc. And these need tafakkur. If you quickly read, you may not get many points. Yes, maybe you get a few points which are very obvious, but with tafakkur you have to bring these treasures out. If you read the Qur'an, you find that Qur'an praises a lot tafakkur and those who do tafakkur. For example, one ayah which Imam Khomeini says is a great praise of tafakkur is this ayah, وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرِ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. We have sent down to you the reminder, which is the Qur'an, so that you explain to people what has been sent down to them. On the one hand, it is sent down to the Prophet. On the other hand, says, Nuzzila ilayhim, sent down to them. Because through the Prophet, Allah has sent the Qur'an down to us. So, this is the ayah that we frequently refer to when we want to say that one of the tasks of the Prophet was to teach the Qur'an, to do tabyin of the Qur'an. But then the ayah has another part. وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And so that they may think, they may contemplate. Imam Khomeini says this is great praise of tafakkur, because Allah says the one end, one ghaya, one reason for sending Qur'an down is so that people may do tafakkur. Look at greatness of tafakkur. Like for example, Allah says why fasting is made necessary and obligatory. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. This shows greatness of taqwa, that in order that they may gain taqwa, fasting is made necessary. Here Allah says we have sent the Qur'an down to the Prophet to explain to the people, وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, and so that they may think. It shows how great is thinking and how greater are the fruits of thinking, because thinking for the sake of thinking is not taking us that much, forward. Thinking would lead to results. It's productive thinking. In the same way that, for example, Allah, when He talks about stories, in the Quran, we have stories that Allah mentions. It says, فَقْصُصِ الْقَصَصِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Surah Al-A'raf, verse 176. فَقْصُصِ الْقَصَصِ. Narrate them, tell them the stories, like Prophet Yusuf, Prophet Musa, Prophet Ibrahim, Zakaria, Yahya, Lady Maryam, Isa. Why? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Or in Surah Al-Imran, verse 190, Allah says, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم يتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. Tafakkur is so important. And then we have hadith about this ayah which says وَيْلٌ لِمَنْ قَرَأَهَا وَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرْ فِيهَا. Warns the people who recite the ayah and they don't do tafakkur, they don't think about it, they don't ponder, they don't reflect. Qur'an is the book for reflection. Yes, looking at the Qur'an is amazing, reading the Qur'an is amazing, but compared to pondering on the Qur'an, they are not enough. The greatest thing is to look, to read for pondering and understanding. Khaja Abdullah Ansari, who has the book Manazil al-Sa'irin, he has a discussion about tafakkur. One of the stations, one of the 50 stations that he discusses is tafakkur. He says, اعلم أن التفكر تلمس البصيرة لاستدراك البغية. He says, tafakkur, إن التفكر تلمس البصيرة لاستدراك البغية. It was a small letter here. Tafakkur is, el-talamus means like seeking, el-tamas, the same root. Tafakkur means that you are seeking insight. You want your eyes of the heart to be able to, because we have basar and basira. Basar is for the sight of the physical eyes. Basira is the sight of the inner eyes. Okay, so therefore we say out, insight. We have, outside and inside. So, tafakkur is that you are seeking insight to reach your purpose. What is the purpose of the Qur'an? We said ways of peace, darkness, living darkness going to light, qalb salim. So we want to have insight to reach that. This is what we can achieve from the Qur'an. And then he says, if you do this for some time, then inshallah you will get that vision. You start seeing, and then your vision also becomes sharp, hadid. You will get very clear. First you would have very maybe unclear vision, like someone, for example, his eyes are not very strong and needs glasses. Without glasses, maybe has very clouded vision. So first insight is also like this, but little by little it becomes very sharp. When it becomes a habit and a kind of quality. And then you can understand from Qur'an shifa, what brings healing. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah says, we keep sending down from the Qur'an what is healing and mercy for the believers. Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam said, وَتَعَلَّمُوا الْقُرْآنِ فَإِنَّهُ رَبِيعُ الْقُلُوبِ. Learn Qur'an because it is the spring of the hearts. When you go towards the Qur'an with your heart becomes very energized, vital, revived, refreshed. And when it's refreshed and revived, it's a new life. So all the disease of the old life should go away. This is a new birth. It's rebirth. وَاسْتَشْفُوا بِنُورِهِ فَإِنَّهُ شِفَاءُ الصُّدُورِ. Seek healing with the light of the Qur'an, because the healing for the chest. Imam Khomeini says, Qur'an is not sent for healing of the bodily illness, although it can help with that. But the main problems that we have, for which we have no other source, is disease of the heart, spiritual illnesses. In the same way that prophets came for a spiritual medicine. Yes, they gave advice about what to, for example, eat, what to drink, and recommendations about certain, for example, things that have good impact for healing. We have even some collections of hadith about Tibbun Nabi, Tibbun Raza, etc. But they didn't come for this. Even if they taught sometimes medicine of the body, but they didn't come for this. Quran also tells us things that can help us with physical illness, but the purpose for which the Quran has been sent, which has no alternative, is disease of the heart. With the disease of body, we have pain, we have suffering, our life becomes short, but it's very limited. But sometimes one person has a spiritual disease and makes lives of millions or hundreds of millions of people miserable. You cannot compare the harm which a physical illness can cause and spiritual. Someone like Hitler, someone like Saddam, someone like Namrud, sometimes like Hitlers of this time. You see how their illness affects lives of all humanity. Even for generations, these are not going to be, easily sorted out. It remains. So that kind of healing is what we need from the Qur'an. Chapter 6 is about tatbiq, application. So chapter 5 was hudur, presence of heart, but we didn't discuss. Imam Khomeini said because we have discussed this before, and we discussed about tafakkur. Chapter 6 is about tatbiq, application. What does it mean? Very simple, but it needs practice. Everything that you read from the Quran, apply to yourself. See what implications, practical implications it has for yourself. It's a good story, a story of good people, bad people, mistakes, good decisions. Apply to yourself. If you are repeating the same problems, avoid that. If you are doing good things, keep that, grow it. So this is very important. For example, we read the Quran about the story of Ādāb ala nabiyyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam and Iblis. Okay, we should reflect here. If it was just for Iblis, Allah wouldn't have mentioned it in the Quran. It's to tell us that you must be careful. After 6,000 years of worship, he had a big problem of arrogance, bias, asabiyya, as Amir al-Mu'minin says in Nahj al-Balagha. And this led him to being cursed. What about if I have the same problem? Or for example, about Ādāb alayhi salam. We can learn many things from Ādāb. We can also understand potentials of human beings. For example, Allah says, عَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Allah taught Ādāb all the names. We need to work on increasing our capacity to be taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the things that we have in our hadith is ihsa for names of God. Ihsa in Arabic means to include, to count, to exhaust something. For example, إن تعدوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها. If you start counting the bounties of Allah, you cannot exhaust. You cannot be very inclusive of all the blessings of Allah. Your list always falls short. It's ihsa. Or كل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين in Surah Yasin. It's ihsa. We have a notion, a concept, which is ihsa'ul asma. What does it mean? Maybe someone thinks it means that you start counting names of Allah. All the beautiful names of Allah. For example, 9,900 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you start counting. Yes, this is one basic level, but ihsa'ul asma, Imam Khomeini says, it means that you have to acquire the reality. تحقق بحقيقة آنها. So if we say Allah is Kareem, I have to acquire Karam. If Allah is Jawad, is generous, I have to become generous. If He is kind, I have to be kind. If He is knowledgeable, I have to. If He is wise, I have to be wise. If He is Salam, I have to be peaceful. This is ihsa, to acquire the same reality. There is a hadith, Inna lillah tis'un wa tis'ina isman man ahsaha dakhala al-jannah. إِنَّ لِلَّهِ تِسْعًا وَتِسْعِينَ اسْمًا. Allah has 99 names. Whoever can do ihsa of them, count them, enters Jannah. But this is not counting by, mentioning 1, 2, 3, for example, name. No, by getting their reality. So we have to become manifestation of all these qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is through irtiyazat qalbiyya, through practices of the heart. It needs a spiritual exercise. In hadith we have that the soul of mu'min is more connected or more closely connected to Allah than rays of the sun being connected to the sun. Imam Khomeini also refers to hadith qurb al-nawafil, that Allah says, my servant, by doing nawafil, constantly comes closer and closer. La yazal yataqarrabu ilayya abdi bin nawafil hatta uhibbah, till I love him. When I love him, I become his hands by which he holds, I become his eyes by which he sees, I become his ears by which he listens, etc. So this is what we can achieve when we say Allama Ādam al-asma'a kullaha. It's a gate to enter into this realm of learning, obtaining, manifesting names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at the end he says, bil jumla, as a summary or as a conclusion, we can say, if you want to benefit a lot from the Qur'an, every ayah that you recite, you should apply to yourself and see what implications it has for you. For example, another example. In Surah Al-Anfal, Allah says, mu'mineen have these qualities. Among their qualities, they have these qualities. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Believers are only those people that, among other qualities, they have these qualities. إِنَّمَا is for hasr, for exclusiveness. When Allah is remembered, is mentioned, وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ, their hearts are showing awe towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trembled and affected. When His verses are recited to them, their iman, their faith increases, and they trust upon the Lord. So I should then see, do I have these qualities? When, for example, there is a discussion, when people talk, then someone says, Ya Allah, or for some reason mentions the name of Allah. Do I feel different? Or for me, hearing the name of Allah and hearing the name of people is the same? Those who are, for example, loving someone, for example, if someone is a person who has great love for a human being, when they hear the name, they are changed. Therefore, it's very difficult to hide love, because people can see that when you hear the name of that person, you are different. When the name of that person is mentioned, you are different. It's very difficult to hide love. Mawlavi has a story that some years back, I have mentioned this story, that he says there was a kind of like king who had married a girl, a woman. But this woman was ill. As soon as he married this woman, she was ill. He had best of doctors, but no doctor could find the solution. Then he made lots of dua, and then he was told that a wise person, a wise physician is going to pass by, and anyway, he went out, he mentions the details, and met him and asked him to help. This wise person realized that she doesn't have physical problem, although she is very pale and has become very thin, but it's not physical cause for this problem. Realized that this lady must be in love with someone else. Before marriage, she was in love with someone, but then maybe was forced to marry this king. So took the hand of this woman and started mentioning different cities, and realized that when said Balkh, her blood pressure becomes more heart beating faster. So he realized that there is something in the city of Balkh. Started mentioning different districts in Balkh. He was familiar with the city of Balkh. Started mentioning. Then when he mentioned one district, was becoming more. So he realized that she's in love with a young man whose job is, I don't remember exactly, I don't know, selling jewelry or whatever in a special district market for these things in Balkh. So there are two ways now. One is to kill that young man so that she loses hope in that person, and then maybe she would love, the king, or at least forget that man. But this is painful, and maybe even she dies if her, beloved is dying. So what they did was they invited that person, that young person, to come. So he came, and when she saw that man, became very, little by little, happier, then she was all right. She was healthy again. Then they put something in the food of the man, and that man was not longer beautiful. Little by little lost attraction. So this woman then lost her love for that man. And then they took him away. So in this way, they freed her heart from that love which was, causing problem. But very, tactfully, not, because you cannot just say, don't love that person or we kill that person. No. It needs a remedy. It's a very careful process. Then, of course, Mawlavi says, عشق کز پی رنگی بود عشق نبود عاقبت ننگی بود. Rang means color, nang means shame. So if love is for color of the skin, this is not love, and at the end it becomes a shame. So this was not genuine love, it was just, a romantic love free from deep intellectual roots. Basically loved the way that man looked. When he was no longer beautiful, she lost love. But when she had that love, she was dying because of separation. It's amazing that how even what we call ishq majazi, an unreal love, is so deeply effective that people can become ill. People can commit, suicide. But as soon as they marry, they see no, They cannot even live together. Sometimes it happens. So, anyway, what I want to say is that if someone even loves a person, when they hear the name or even the name of the city of that person, their hearts start beating faster. What about a mu'min who loves Allah? إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجَلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. So it's a sign of Iman. Am I the same? When I hear the name of Allah, when I hear, for example, verses in the Qur'an of Surah Al-Hashr, does it have any impact on me or not? When I listen to the Qur'an, does my Iman increase? What about my tawakkul? Do I trust Allah? So Imam Khomeini says this is tatbiq. You have to apply all the verses to yourself and see how much you match. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was completely in harmony with the Quran to the extent that the wife of the Prophet said, "Kana khuluquhu al-Quran." His akhlaq was Quran. He was embodiment of the Quran. If we want to get closer to Rasulullah, Hujjah of Allah, also we should be the same. So closer to Quran and closer to Hujjah of Allah. Quran is by itself Hujjah, and the other Hujjah is the Prophet and Imam. We need to apply the Quran and then adapt ourselves to that. Inshallah, we will have an appendix, a short appendix next week about some hadith, and then after that we start some of the manners of qira'ah inside Salat, recitation of the Quran inside Salat. When we recite Surah Al-Hamd, for example, or Surah Qul Huwallah. These 6 chapters were general recitation. So then we will talk about a specific recitation, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.